From the outside, Ella and Talia looked like the kind of sisters people envied. Polished, poised, picture perfect. Their Instagram was filled with brunches and birthday trips, beach vacations and inside jokes, matching swimsuits. Wine glasses clinked mid-laugh. To the world, they were best friends who just so happened to share blood. But behind the filters was something more complicated. Ella had always been the quiet one, the planner, the one who ironed her clothes the night before and color-coded her planner. Talia, she was chaos in heels. Loud, spontaneous, magnetic. People gravitated to her, and she expected them to stay. Growing up, Ella learned how to shrink without being asked. If Talia got a solo in the school play, Ella clapped the loudest. If Talia needed the bigger room, Ella helped her move in. If Talia made a joke at Ella's expense in front of friends, Ella laughed along. That was the unspoken rule. Talia sparkled. Ella supported Dot, but the truth was, Ella had her own fire. It just didn't scream for attention. It simmered quietly, steadily. Underneath the surface. She had worked hard for years, quietly building her resume, staying late at jobs that didn't always notice her, saying yes to every difficult task just to prove she could do more. And now, finally, her moment had come, a job opening. One she had dreamt about. One that didn't just pay well, it aligned with everything she'd worked toward. A leadership position, creative freedom, and for the first time, real influence. When the email arrived inviting her for the interview, Ella's hands had trembled. She reread it 5 times, each line hitting like validation. She called her mother, then her mentor, and then hesitantly, she told Talia, "Wait, like a real interview?" Talia said, sipping from her lavender latte, oversized sunglasses perched on her head like a crown. Ella smiled. "Yeah, it's a dream role." Talia blinked. "Oh, well, that's unexpected, unexpected." That was always the undertone. That Ella wasn't supposed to win. Not really. She was supposed to clap, to support, to be happy from the sidelines, but Talia recovered quickly. "Flip the switch." "That's amazing, Al. You have to let me help you get ready." "What are you wearing?" "Do you need me to fix your hair?" "You know, I do better makeup than you." It was said with a laugh. A light touch on the arm. A tone that could be mistaken for affection. But Ella felt it, the old tightening in her chest. The warning that came with every offer from Talia. Still, she nodded. "Okay, maybe, thanks." The night before the interview, Talia came over with a rolling rack of clothes. "Just in case you need options," she said. "I brought a few statement blazers, ones that say I belong here, you know?" Ella smiled politely, but she already knew what she was going to wear. A navy dress with clean lines. Simple, powerful. It wasn't flashy, but it made her feel like herself. She hung it up carefully and moved on to practicing answers. Talia talked over most of them, offered unasked for advice, suggested bolder words, flirtier tones. Ella nodded and said thank you. But inside, something began to sting. When Talia finally left. After snapping a selfie with Ella and posting it with the caption, "Helping baby sis become a boss," Ella sat in silence. She stared at her dress, at the printed copy of her resume, at the note cards she'd made with talking points. This was her moment. But suddenly, it felt like Talia had claimed it too. Ella shook it off. Made tea, reviewed her materials one more time. She went to bed early, determined to rise before the sun and take back her momentum. But the next morning, the unraveling began. Her alarm went off at 6 a.m. By 6:15, coffee was brewing. By 6:30, she was ready to get dressed, only the navy dress wasn't hanging where she left it. Her closet was neat, always. She didn't misplace things. She searched, checked the laundry, checked the bathroom. And there in a basket of towels, she found it soaked red wine. Deep burgundy stains blooming across the fabric like bruises, and next to it, an empty glass, tipped sideways. Her heart said DED.TALIA. She had been drinking red wine last night. She'd brought a glass into the room. She'd tossed her heels on the chair where the dress had been hanging. Ella stared at the ruined fabric. Her breathing shallow. The interview was in 2 hours. She called Talia, her voice clipped. My dress is ruined, Talia gasped. Oh no. Babe, I must have knocked over my glass. I didn't even see. You should have told me you left it on that chair. That chair? That chair in Ella's own bedroom? Ella hung up quickly. She didn't argue. She didn't cry. She chose a backup outfit, ironed it fast, hands trembling. She'd still show up, still sit in that interview room, but something inside her shifted as she zipped up the second choice blouse. This wasn't just a ruined dress. It was a line crossed, and what Talia didn't know was that this time Ella wasn't the one auditioning. She was the one holding the pen, writing the next chapter, and Talia. She was about to become just another character in the story. The morning of the interview began with golden light pouring through Ella's curtains, soft and warm. It should have been a good omen. A quiet beginning to a big day. She had planned every detail. Woke up early, made her usual cinnamon tea, did her 5-minute meditation, reviewed her notes, rehearsed her elevator pitch in the mirror. It was all going exactly the way she wanted, until at WSN single quotes T. Ella opened her closet and froze. The navy dress, the dress, was gone. She blinked, looked again, moved the hangers left and right, checked the garment bag. Nothing. It wasn't just misplaced. It had vanished. Her heart started pounding. She never lost things. She wasn't careless, especially not with this. She tore through the laundry hamper. Nothing. Then she noticed something odd. The smell. Sharp, acidic, unmistakable. Wine confused. She opened the linen basket in the hallway, the one they rarely used except for extra towels. And there it was. The dress was balled up and soaked. Burgundy stains bloomed across the fabric like blood and water. The scent of red wine hit her full force. Her throat tightened. For a moment, she just stood there, stunned, and then rage. Her stomach turned. Her hands trembled. She held the fabric up to the light. It was ruined. Not just stained, destroyed. She stared at it, trying to process. And then she remembered. Last night, Talia had been sipping red wine, a full glass in her hand as she helped pick out outfits. She'd sat right there on the bed, tossing options, brushing lint off Ella's clothes like she was doing her a favor. Ella had warned her. Be careful with that, Talia had laughed. Relax, it's not like I'm drunk. Apparently, she didn't need to be. Ella's phone buzzed. A message from Talia. Good luck today, babe. You're gonna crush it? Ella stared at the screen, then back at the dress. Her chest felt tight, not just with anger, but confusion. Was this really an accident? Or was it something else? She called her. Talia answered on the second ring. Hey, superstar. My dress is ruined, Ella said flatly. A beat of silence. Wait, what? It was in the towel bin, covered in red wine. Talia gasped. Oh my God, no way. Babe, I must have knocked it over by accident last night. I didn't even notice. Ooh, I'm such a klutz. Ella said nothing. Talia rushed on. I swear, I didn't mean to. I thought you were gonna wear the pink one anyway. No, Ella said coldly. I told you I wasn't. Another pause. Well, maybe this is a sign. You know, to go bold. Red lip power suit. You'll be amazing either way. Ella ended the call. She didn't have time for a fight. Not now. She raced back to her room, heart thudding. She had exactly 50 minutes to leave the house. and nothing she'd planned to wear. She yanked open drawers, pulled hangers off the rack, tried on 2 dresses, one too short, one too wrinkled. Finally, she settled on a navy blue blouse and a high-waisted skirt. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't her. It wasn't the outfit she'd practiced in. It wasn't the one that made her feel powerful, and that mattered. She did her makeup with shaking hands. Her mascara smeared once. She redid it. Her hair wouldn't sit right. She pinned it back anyway. She looked in the mirror. She didn't feel like the woman who was about to own the room. She looked like someone who had scrambled and lost downstairs. As she grabbed her keys, Talia was standing in the kitchen, perfectly dressed, lip gloss shimmering. "Oh, good, you're still here," Talia said, too cheerful. "I was worried you'd left already." Ella didn't answer. "I feel so bad about the dress," Talia added. "Seriously, I owe you. That wine must have gone everywhere. I'm such a disaster sometimes, right?" Ella stared at her. "You sure are," Talia laughed like it was a joke. "But you still look great. That outfit is super cute. Maybe even better than the other one." Ella's mouth pressed into a thin line. She walked past her without another word. "You've got this," Talia called after her. "You're amazing, remember?" Ella didn't turn back Dot in the car. As she gripped the steering wheel, she forced herself to breathe. Inhale. Exhale. Dot. Focus. Dot. She would not let this ruin her. Dot. But still, her mind kept replaying everything. Talia had always played the part of the supportive sister, but there had always been an edge to it. A competitiveness. A subtle way of reminding Ella that she was the little sister. The quiet one. The helper. Dot. And now, when Ella was finally stepping into something big, suddenly there was spilled wine. A ruined dress. Backhanded encouragement. Something inside Ella clicked. This wasn't support. Dot. It was sabotage. Dot. Self-sabotage. Wrapped in smiles, she wouldn't confront her. Not yet. She had more important things to focus on, but Talia had shown her something today, something Ella couldn't unsee. This wasn't just about a dress. Dot. It was about control, power, fear, because maybe, just maybe, Talia wasn't the star anymore. Maybe Ella had finally stepped into her own light, and some people didn't like to share the spotlight. Dot. As she parked the car, straightened her blouse, and stepped out into the crisp morning air, Ella lifted her chin. The dress was ruined, but she wasn't, not even close. Ella sat in the car, white-knuckling the steering wheel. Her pulse was racing. Her blouse stuck uncomfortably to her back. The hem of her skirt was slightly uneven, and her shoes, though sensible, had scuff marks she hadn't noticed before. This wasn't how she imagined showing up to the most important meeting of her life. Her hair, frizzy from the rushed flat iron session, looked more like static than sleek. Her lipstick was uneven. Her usual calm was gone, replaced by that awful, high-pitched voice in her head. "You're not ready. You're not enough. You blew it." She closed her eyes, took a shaky breath. "You are not here to impress. You are here to observe." The reminder helped, slightly, because the truth no one knew, was that Ella wasn't here for a job interview. She was here to make a decision. Dot. To evaluate. Dot. To see the team she'd quietly invested in. Weeks ago, Ella had finalized her stake in the boutique consulting firm after years of careful saving and smart investments. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't a tech giant. But it was hers, a real seat at a real table. Her name wasn't on the website yet. Her title wasn't public. But the board knew her. The senior partners knew her. The interview today was a soft entry, her first in-person walkthrough of the operations team. But Talia didn't know that. No one in Ella's personal life did. Today's drama had given her a brutal and valuable lens into how people treated her when they thought she had no power. She stepped out of the car, straightened her skirt, pulled her shoulders back. Inside the glass building, the receptionist smiled warmly. "You must be Ms. Whitmore. They're expecting you." Ella smiled. "Thank you." A woman with clipped heels and a confident walk approached her moments later. "Ella, hi. I'm Jordan, VP of Operations." "So glad you could join us." Ella shook her hand firmly. "Thanks for having me." As they walked down the hallway, Jordan chatted about logistics, culture, team dynamics. Ella nodded, taking it all in. But beneath her nods, her thoughts spun. She was still rattled. Still raw from this morning. It wasn't just the ruined dress. It was the realization. That Talia, her own sister, would rather see her flustered than flourishing. That the wine spill wasn't just clumsiness. It was calculated. And yet, Ella had let it slide. She'd smiled through it, brushed it off, played along with the accident story. Because that's what she'd always done. But not anymore. Today proved something. She could be shaken and still show up. Frizzy hair, wrinkled blouse, heart pounding. Still here. Still rising. They entered the boardroom, minimalist, bright, overlooking the city skyline. 3 executives sat at the long table. They stood to greet her. "Ms. Whitmore," said one. "We've been looking forward to meeting you in person." Ella nodded, her confidence slowly returning. As they sat, Jordan turned to her. "Before we get into team walkthroughs and schedules, I heard there was a bit of a wardrobe emergency this morning." Ella blinked. "Excuse me?" Jordan grinned. "Your assistant mentioned it during the call reschedule. Something about a red wine disaster." Ella felt her cheeks warm. So Talia had told someone? Spun it like she was helping clean it up, probably. She forced a smile. "Yes, a very unfortunate glass of Pinot Noir." Everyone chuckled politely. "Hope it wasn't too much stress." Jordan said. Ella's smile sharpened. "If anything, it clarified a few things for me." They moved into agenda items. Hiring pipelines, project assessments, budget adjustments. Ella asked precise questions, took mental notes. The frizz in her hair didn't matter anymore. Her mind was razor-sharp. By the end of the meeting, she had already spotted 3 inefficiencies, 2 potential hires, and 1 manager who clearly bluffed through data. When the meeting wrapped, Jordan offered her a tour. "Love to," Ella said. They walked past the HR wing, the tech side, the design team cubicles. Ella took it all in. When they paused at the coffee station, Jordan leaned in. "You handled this morning's chaos like a pro." "Most people would have rescheduled." Ella smiled slightly. "Chaos reveals character." Jordan raised an eyebrow. "That it does." Ella's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen. "Talia, let me know how it goes." "Rooting for you." Ella stared at it for a long moment. The audacity. Rooting for you. As if she hadn't systematically chipped at Ella's confidence for years. As if she hadn't made this morning, this day, 10 times harder. Then it had to be. Ella tucked the phone away, noted it, didn't reply. Back in the car, she finally exhaled. It hadn't gone the way she planned. It had gone better. Because today, she didn't just show up. She saw clearly. The dress didn't matter. The wine didn't matter. What mattered was this. Talia saw her as the little sister playing dress up. But Ella was done pretending. She had a seat at the table. And no one, not even blood, would knock her out of it again. The next morning, Ella made French toast. Golden, crisp, cinnamon-scented. Talia's favorite. She even poured her a mimosa. Talia blinked sleepily as she shuffled into the kitchen in her robe, clearly not expecting hospitality. "Wow," she said, eyeing the spread. "You're in a good mood." Ella smiled, warm and easy. "Yesterday was rough. I figured we both deserved something sweet." Talia grinned, clearly pleased with herself. "Well, I did save your morning. Can you imagine if you wore that red skirt with a pull in the back?" Tragic, Ella chuckled. You really came through. They ate together like old times, like sisters. But beneath, Ella's placid smile was steel, because now she understood the game, and if Talia thought she had the upper hand, Ella wasn't going to correct her. Not yet. She would let her enjoy the illusion because the real moves were being made where Talia couldn't see. That afternoon, Ella stepped into the elevator of a sleek, mirrored building downtown. She was early. As always, precise, controlled. She had changed into a navy sheath dress, pressed and polished, with her hair swept into a sleek bun. No frizz. No panic. Not today. She reached the executive floor, where a receptionist greeted her like an old friend. Ms. Whitmore, they're expecting you. Ella smiled. Thank you. The boardroom doors opened, revealing a sunlit space and a table full of decision makers. At the head sat Dana Lynn, CEO of Stratus Group, and a force in the industry. Ella, Dana said warmly, standing to shake her hand. Welcome. I've got the paperwork ready. We're thrilled to finalize this. Ella nodded, sliding into her seat. The feeling's mutual. Dana passed over a folder. You'll find the equity structure updated. 20% stake. And your mentorship proposal, it's brilliant. You'll be the face of it if you're still willing. I am. Dana leaned back, impressed. This industry needs more quiet power. Women like you. We don't just shake the room, we reshape it. Ella's lips twitched. That's the idea. That evening, she sat on the couch with Talia, watching a reality show about women and luxury marketing, the same industry. Talia had always said Ella wasn't bold enough for. I just think you'd get eaten alive, Talia once told her. Years ago, flipping through a fashion magazine. You're too soft. You don't know how to play the room. Ella had nodded back then. Agreed even. But now, watching Talia roll her eyes at the glamorous business types, Ella felt something unfamiliar. Freedom, because Talia didn't know. Ella had quietly entered the very world she was deemed unfit for. Didn't know that by next quarter, her face would be in that same magazine, not as a featurette, but as a strategist leading the new Women Forward Mentorship Initiative, designed to uplift rising female talent. And the applications? They would open next week. Anonymous. Merit-based. Talia would apply. Ella was almost certain of it. The irony. The program was designed to identify bold, ambitious women with industry insight, exactly what Talia always claimed. Ella lacked. Can play that game. And Ella had just rewritten the rules. Over the next few days, Ella kept the charade alive. She gushed about how kind Talia had been. Thanked her again for saving the morning. She even played up the rejection. Felt like it went okay. She lied. But I haven't heard anything. Fingers crossed. Talia smirked with subtle satisfaction. Well, you gave it your best shot. Ella swallowed her laugh. She was already on the project launch committee. Her name was on the board's internal comms. The press release was in draft. Talia didn't even realize she was orbiting Ella's gravity now. Days later, as Talia scrolled Instagram on their shared patio, she stopped on a sponsored post calling future leaders. Stratus Group's Women Forward Mentorship Initiative is now open for applications. She clicked through. Luxury brand strategy. Female leadership. Career elevation. Exactly the kind of thing she'd always wanted, the kind of opportunity she believed. Ella could never get near. She glanced up. Hey, you seen this? Ella looked up from her book. This mentorship program, Talia said, handing over her phone. Looks intense. Ella scanned the screen. Oh yeah, I've heard of them. Stratus Group, big name. Think I should apply? Ella tilted her head, the picture of neutrality. You, of course. It's perfect for you. Talia beamed. I think I will. Ella handed back the phone. Good luck. Inside, she smiled, because the application would go through. The panel would review it, and when her name came across Ella's desk, flagged by merit alone, she wouldn't reject it. She'd do what good leaders do. She'd judge it fairly, but that didn't mean she'd forget. Some lessons stick, like the sound of your sister pouring red wine on your future. While smiling, Talia always thought the world was hers because she spoke louder. But Ella, she'd learned that true power doesn't shout, it builds, and hers was just getting started. The night before the panel interviews, Talia practically bounced into the living room. "I think I nailed it," she said, dropping onto the couch and stretching like a cat. "That mentorship thing? Totally my vibe. Luxury branding, leadership exposure, influencer strategy. It's so me." Ella looked up from her laptop with a polite smile. "That's great. I'm telling you, this company gets it," Talia gushed. "Their branding is sleek, their messaging is feminist without being cringe, and the woman who's heading the initiative, a total boss. They said it's anonymous for now, but I bet it's someone iconic." Ella sipped her tea to hide her smirk. "Iconic, huh?" Talia continued, her voice filled with an edge of superiority. "I wrote the perfect essay, all about my vision for empowering women through bold branding choices. I even name-dropped Vogue and Glossier. I'm sure that impressed them," Ella said calmly. Talia didn't notice the slight sarcasm. The next day, Ella arrived at Stratus Group's headquarters early, her heels echoing against the polished floor as she walked to the conference room. Selection panel was already assembling, a mix of senior executives, brand strategists, and 2 guest advisors. Ella wasn't just there to observe. She was the co-chair of the initiative. Dana, the CEO, clapped a hand on her shoulder. "Ready for the shortlist interviews?" Ella nodded. "Let's see what we're working with." She scanned the list of candidates. There it was. Talia Vaughn. No aliases. No initials. Just bold, all caps confidence. Ella's stomach twisted once, then settled. She'd said this would be fair. She meant it. The candidates were brought in one at a time. Some were nervous but genuine. Others rehearsed but insightful. Then came Talia. She swept into the room like it was a runway. "Hi." "So excited to be here," she chirped, her voice bright, her blazer blindingly white. "This opportunity is literally everything I've been waiting for." Ella sat at the far end of the long table. Talia didn't even glance her way. In this room, Ella wasn't Ella, the sister. She was Ms. Whitmore, co-chair of the initiative. Talia desperately wanted to be part of. The interview began. "So, Talia," said one of the panelists, a senior strategist named Malik, "tell us what drew you to this program." Talia leaned forward, flashing her peer-perfect smile. "Well, I think women's voices are the future of branding. I'm passionate about bold visuals, disruptive messaging, and of course staying ahead of trends." A few panelists nodded politely. "And how do you define leadership?" another asked. Talia tossed her hair. "Oh, I believe leaders should inspire. Be seen, be strong, be unafraid to take up space." Ella didn't flinch. But inside, she noted how Talia's answers skimmed the surface. Polished, yes. But hollow. Dana posed the next question. "Tell us about a time you faced failure. What did you learn from it?" Talia blinked. "Oh, well, I don't really think in terms of failure. Everything's a stepping stone, right?" She laughed, deflecting. "I mean, if you're confident enough, people rarely see your failures." A few panelists exchanged glances. Ella kept her expression. Neutral. Next came a question about teamwork. Talia's answer was rehearsed, name-dropping vague. Collaborations and using buzzwords like synergy and energy alignment, but she stumbled when asked about humility, froze for half a second, then forced a laugh. "I mean, yeah, I guess it's important to stay grounded, but I believe women should stop being told to shrink themselves." Sometimes being humble is just code for be quieter. The irony was almost too much. Talia had spent years mocking Ella for being quiet, methodical, and steady. Now, those exact qualities were what the initiative was built on, leadership rooted in strategy, not spectacle. Ella leaned forward. Talia, she said, her voice even and clear. Talia turned up the sound. Her smile faltered, just for a second. Something in the name and the tone made her do a double take, but she recovered. Yes? What do you think makes a leader worth following in a crisis? Talia blinked, caught off guard. Well, confidence for one. Being decisive, owning the room. Ella met her gaze. And if you don't have the room, if everything falls apart, your outfit, your plan, your timing, what's left? Talia hesitated. Then you fake it till you make it? She offered, trying for a laugh. The silence after was telling. Ella wrote one word in her notes. Facade. The interview wrapped. Talia thanked the panel, glowing and oblivious. As she turned to leave, she finally caught Ella's eye. Recognition flickered, confusion, then the door shut behind her. Later, as the panel debriefed, Malik turned to Ella. She's got presence. No doubt, but there's something missing. Dana nodded. She's used to being seen, not tested. They looked to Ella. Thoughts? Ella closed her folder slowly. She's bright, knows how to perform. But we're not building performers. A pause. We're building women who know how to lead before the applause. No one disagreed. That evening, Talia burst through the front door, dropping her purse dramatically. Wow, that was wild, she said, grabbing a water bottle from the fridge. I think I crushed it. Ella looked up from the dining table. Yeah, totally, Talia said, flopping onto a chair. I think I had them at disruptive branding. I bet the panel was all suits, though. Probably didn't get it. Ella smiled faintly. Maybe. Talia didn't notice the shift in her tone. Didn't notice that the woman she had once sabotaged had just watched her flounder under the same spotlight she thought she owned. Ella simply stood and rinsed her teacup. You know, Talia added, oblivious. Whoever runs that program. I'd love to meet her. She's probably like ancient, but cool. Ella dried her hands. Maybe one day, she said softly. Then she walked past her sister, quiet, unreadable, but the truth. The interview was over. The score was noted. And Ella, she was no longer being tested. She was the one holding the pen. The observation room was quiet, save for the hum of the air vent and the soft scratch of pens against paper. Behind the one-way mirror, Ella sat with a group of board members, their chairs angled toward the interview space beyond the glass. From their side, they could see everything. The eager posture, the polished smile, the over-rehearsed delivery. Talia was in full performance mode. She's confident, murmured Dana, head of the mentorship board. Too confident, maybe. Ella didn't respond. Not yet. She simply watched. Talia was seated in the bright, minimal room just beyond the glass, unaware that her sister sat only a few feet away, separated by a thin wall and a thick truth. Ella kept her face unreadable, her notes precise. It wasn't personal. It was necessary. Talia leaned back in her chair on the other side, legs crossed, grin fixed in place. I think the key to modern leadership is visibility, she said. Presence is power. People follow what they can see. One of the panelists across from her, an executive from a major publishing house, scribbled something in the margin of his evaluation. Sheet. Dana tilted her head. And how do you lead when you're not being seen? Talia blinked, caught for half a second, then recovered with a toss of her hair. You prepare to be seen again, she said with a shrug. The board exchanged glances. Behind the mirror, Ella didn't move. But something in her chest settled. There it was, the exact flaw she knew they'd uncover. The interview ended with polite handshakes and another too bright smile. Talia stood, tossed a final wave to the room, and exited, practically strutting. Her heels clicked confidently down the hallway. She didn't know the real panel was watching her leave. Dana waited until the door shut. Then turned. Well, that was something. Murmurs rippled across the room. She knows how to talk, one executive said. But when we pressed her on substance, collaboration, setbacks, humility, there was nothing. Everything was filtered through a performance lens, another added. Dana looked at Ella. You know her, right? Ella nodded once, calm. She performs well, she said. She's charismatic, smooth, a pause, but she lacks depth, no emotion in her tone. Just truth. The board went silent. Not out of shock, but agreement. She couldn't answer the leadership in crisis question, Malik added. That's usually a red flag for ego-driven applicants. She leaned too heavily on style, Dana said. Not enough on values. They all turned to Ella again. And you? What's your full take? Ella placed her pen down gently and folded her hands. She's used to applause, she said. Used to rooms that reward charm more than content. But that doesn't build sustainable leadership. Not the kind we're investing in. A beat passed. Then Dana smiled faintly. Well said, after the meeting. Ella lingered behind. She watched the video replay of Talia's interview on the monitor, a habit she'd developed after sitting in on dozens of applicant sessions. There was her sister, seated confidently, every movement deliberate. Her words just slightly rehearsed. Ella fast-forwarded to the teamwork segment. Talia's answer was vague, deflecting. A lot of, I led the project, and I made it happen. Not a single we. Ella paused the screen on her. Sister's face. It was a strange thing. Looking at someone you'd known your whole life and realizing how little they knew themselves. Talia had no idea she'd just been watched, evaluated. By someone who had once walked behind her shadow like it was home. That night, Ella returned home late. The lights were off. The apartment was quiet. Talia was already in bed, the soft glow of her phone screen visible from under the bedroom door. Ella poured herself a glass of water and sat at the kitchen table. She opened her laptop, checked her notes. Then typed a line into the mentorship review report. Applicant demonstrates strong presentation skills, but requires significant growth in emotional intelligence, collaboration, and long-term strategic thinking. Recommended for alternate development track, not executive mentorship. She saved the file, closed her laptop. And exhaled. There was no need for a confrontation. No. Shouting match. No dramatic reveal, because truth has a way of doing what no revenge ever could. Sitting quietly in a corner and waiting to be noticed. Ella had written her evaluation not with bitterness, but with balance. Not to punish. To clarify. Talia wasn't ready, not for the role, not for the weight of it. And now the board knew it too. The next morning, Talia was chipper again. Think they'll tell us this week? She asked over coffee. I felt like it went really well. I even made that lady laugh. You know, the one in the pink blazer. Ella stirred her tea slowly. Talia grinned. I bet I'm a front runner. Ella smiled faintly. Maybe. Talia didn't notice the restraint in her voice, didn't notice the calm finality behind her eyes, because Talia had played her role so well for so long. The adored sister, the center of attention. She couldn't imagine a world where Ella saw her clearly, but Ella did, now more than ever, and she'd stopped waiting to be seen in return. She rose, dropped her mug in the sink, and headed to her study, her real office now, framed by floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and sunlight. The interview was over. The judgment rendered. No gloating. No revenge. Just reflection, precision, and progress. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Just sit behind the glass and Write what's true. It was barely noon when Ella heard the pounding on her front door fast, frantic, angry. She already knew what it was about. She closed her laptop, exhaled slowly, and walked toward the sound. On the other side stood Talia, red-faced and fuming, her phone clutched in one manicured hand like it had personally betrayed her. I didn't get it, she snapped at Ella, blinked slowly as if surprised. Didn't get what? The mentorship. Talia pushed past her, heels clicking on hardwood, pacing like a caged animal. The email just came. Thank you for your interest, but we've decided to move forward with other candidates. Other candidates? Ella closed the door gently behind her. Wow, she said softly. That's unexpected. Unexpected? Talia spun to face her. I was perfect. Did you see my application? My video essay. I nailed that interview. I even wore the stupid pastel blazer they said made people seem approachable. Ella moved into the kitchen, put the kettle on. Tea? Talia threw her hands up. Seriously? I'm spiraling and you're playing British breakfast hour? Ella didn't respond. She reached for 2 mugs, quietly dropping in tea bags. Chamomile for herself. Earl Grey for Talia, her favorite. She remembered that. Of course she did. Talia stormed after her. What kind of company passes on someone like me? I have charisma, presence, I bring energy. I've been to leadership conferences, for God's sake. You have, Ella said calmly, pouring the hot water. Sugar, Ella? The silence stretched thin like glass dot. Ella carried the mugs to the living room and set them down on the table. She sank into the couch, legs crossed, utterly composed. Talia stood over her, still vibrating with disbelief. This doesn't make any sense. What did they even want? Some quiet mouse with no edge? Maybe, Ella said. Maybe they wanted something different from me. Ella met her eyes. Her voice stayed soft. Do you think people get what they deserve? The question didn't sound like an accusation, but it landed like one. Talia froze. What's that supposed to mean? She asked slowly. Ella sipped her tea. Just wondering. Are you saying I deserve this rejection? I didn't say that. Talia paced again, breathing sharp. You're acting like I did something wrong. Like I brought this on myself. Ella didn't answer, because some truths are more powerful in silence. Talia stopped pacing. She stared at her sister, really stared, as if trying to figure out who was sitting in front of her. Ella had always been the quiet one. The steady one. The doormat, if she was being honest. But today, she looked different. Not smug. Not angry, just untouchable. You know, Talia said, folding her arms. I was excited about this opportunity. I told everyone. I bragged about it. Do you know how humiliating this is now? Ella's voice was barely above a whisper. Do you... Another pause. Talia's nostrils flared. I don't like this version of you, she said finally. That's okay, Ella replied. You never really knew me anyway. The kettle still hissed softly in the background. Talia picked up her mug but didn't drink. Her hands shook slightly. I don't understand how this happened. I was perfect. You performed well, Ella said. You always do. Then why didn't I get it? Ella looked out the window, where the wind was brushing the leaves of the trees just gently enough to notice. Maybe, she said carefully, because performance isn't everything. That struck a nerve. I worked hard. Talia hissed. No doubt. I networked. I polished. I rehearsed every possible question. But did you reflect? That made Talia blink. Did you walk in thinking about how you could grow? What you could learn? Or did you walk in thinking they'd be lucky to have you? Talia's voice was smaller now. I earned that spot. Then why does it feel like something was taken from you, not missed by you? Talia sat down slowly. Her posture deflated. The fire was still there, but now it smoldered under the weight of confusion. "You're not being very comforting," she said. "I'm not trying to be." Silence settled again, not empty, but thick with realization. Talia stared at her sister, eyes narrowed now. "What do you know?" she asked. "You're acting weird, detached, like this was inevitable." Ella didn't answer. She just sipped her tea. "Did you talk to someone?" Talia pressed. "Do you know someone at that company?" Ella tilted her head. "Would it matter?" "Yes. Why?" "Because if you had any pull, you could have helped." Ella looked at her the way someone might look at a person they've finally stopped lying to. "Don't think you ever wanted my help," she said. "Just my silence." Talia opened her mouth, then closed it. Something flickered in her expression, a split-second memory. Maybe. Of all the times she'd dismissed Ella, laughed at her dreams, talked over her, undermined her confidence with a smile. She looked down at her tea. "It's cold now," she muttered. Ella stood, took the mug gently from her hand. "I'll warm it up." Talia didn't stop her. Didn't speak. She just sat there. The storm quieted. The questions rising. Something was different. Not just the rejection, not just the sting of failure, but the sense that maybe she'd been looking at her sister through the wrong lens all along. And now the focus had shifted. Ella returned with the tea, handed it back without a word. Talia took it with both hands this time. More carefully. The spotlight wasn't harsh. It was warm. Ella stood behind the podium, hands steady, eyes clear. The ballroom was elegant, filled with women in blazers and bold lipstick, lanyards swinging from their necks, coffee cups in hand. The air buzzed with ambition. She wasn't nervous, not anymore. Behind her, a banner read, "Women Who Lead, Stories from the Quiet Powerhouses." Funny. Once upon a time, she had paid to attend panels like this, sitting in the back row, scribbling quotes in a notebook, afraid to raise her hand during Q&A. And now she was the keynote. She adjusted the microphone. "Good afternoon," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "I want to tell you a story." The room hushed. "It's not about a hero or a villain. It's about how easily we mistake volume for value, and how sometimes the softest voice in the room carries the clearest truth." There were nods already. She continued. "There was once a girl who was always told she was too quiet, too sensitive, too careful. She had dreams, but they were often treated like hobbies. She had ambition, but it was dressed in humility, so people missed it. Or worse, they mocked it." Some in the room shifted, visibly resonating. She grew up with someone louder, someone who took up space effortlessly, who sparkled, who demanded attention. And for a long time, that girl believed the world only heard voices like that. So she made herself small, palatable, convenient. Ella smiled faintly, almost to herself. But then something changed. The girl stopped waiting to be invited. She stopped trying to shout over the noise. And instead, she started building, quietly, consistently, word by word, brick by brick. The audience was still. You see, she didn't need to prove herself to anyone anymore. She didn't need permission, or praise, or validation from people who'd never seen her clearly in the first place. Ella's voice strengthened. Eventually, she built something so solid, so uncheckable, that even the loudest voices had to pause, had to listen, had to realize she had always been the storm, not the silence. A small ripple of applause began, soft, but swelling. Ella's smile deepened. "I share this not to shame anyone," she said, "but to remind every quiet woman in this room, you are not less just because you are not loud. Your power does not need to announce itself to be real. It just needs to be claimed." By the time she stepped down, the applause was thunderous. She didn't linger. She left the stage with quiet grace, walked backstage, removed her mic, and exhaled. She had said what she came to say. Hours later, the clip hit social media, a shaky smartphone recording. A snippet of her speech. Someone had tagged it hashtag soft power. Within minutes. It was reposted by influencers, authors, and leadership pages. The comment sections flooded. I felt this in my bones. This woman just read my entire life story. Finally, someone said what we've all felt. It traveled fast. And eventually, inevitably, it found Talia. She was scrolling late at night, curled on her couch with a glass of wine, half watching a reality show, when the video autoplayed on her feed. She almost skipped it, but something about the speaker's tone, her voice, her phrasing, made her pause. Talia sat up slowly. Frowning. She turned the volume up. The woman on stage wasn't shown clearly, just a silhouetted figure in a glowing backdrop. But the cadence, the controlled emotion, the deliberate pauses, it was hauntingly familiar. Talia leaned forward. Your power does not need to announce itself to be real. It just needs to be claimed. Her hand dropped the wine glass on the rug without noticing. It was Ella, not a version of Ella, not someone who sounded like her. It was her. Suddenly, the puzzle pieces snapped together, all of it. The steady confidence. The shifting tone, the rejection email, the book deal. The cold tea, the silence that wasn't passive anymore. It was tactical. Ella had built something. Not behind Talia's back. In front of her face while she wasn't paying attention. And now, strangers across the internet were calling her iconic, grounded, a voice for the rest of us. Talia clicked on the profile that posted the clip, a repost from the official Women Who Lead account. She SCRILED. There, in the list of speakers, was a name she hadn't seen in years. A. Whitmore. She sat back, breath caught in her throat. Her sister had outgrown her, not with noise, not with vengeance, but with presence. And suddenly, Talia understood something that had been staring her in the face for months. She had underestimated the wrong woman that night. While the world buzzed about the mysterious speaker who spoke truth in velvet, Ella sat at her desk, feet tucked under her chair, wearing a soft sweater and no makeup. She wasn't watching the metrics. She was writing again, because this story, this wasn't the end. It was just another chapter. The phone rang just after midnight. Ella was still awake, sipping chamomile tea on the balcony, her laptop closed beside her. The city was quiet, save for a few sirens in the distance. Her name was still trending. The panel speech had gone viral. Book sales spiked. A publisher had already emailed about a follow-up, but Ella wasn't celebrating. She was simply breathing. Then the screen lit up. Talia. Ella stared at the name for a moment. She didn't feel anger or dread, just calm. She answered. Hello? There was a pause, a soft inhale. Then, was that about me? Talia's voice was small, thinner than Ella had ever heard it. Ella didn't rush her answer. She let the silence linger, let the words settle where they belonged. Finally, she said, it was about me. Talia swallowed audibly. But the quiet girl, the sister in the shadow, that was me, wasn't it? I mean, I was the loud one. Ella let the statement hang, unchallenged. I didn't say your name. Talia, you didn't have to. Another silence. I saw the video. Talia added, her voice cracking. People are calling it revolutionary. It's everywhere. You're everywhere. Ella didn't know what to say to that. Not because she was speechless, but because she didn't feel the need to fill the space anymore. She had no urge to shrink herself or soften the truth. Talia continued. I didn't know you felt that way. That I made you feel that way. Ella took a breath. I don't think you ever thought about how I felt. I was just being your big sister, Talia said quickly. You know, pushing you to be bolder, tougher, by mocking me. Ella asked, her tone even. By laughing at my interviews, my ideas, my writing. I didn't mean it like that, but you said it like that. The line went quiet. I didn't think it would hurt you, Talia admitted. You always seemed fine. You never pushed back. You never said anything. Ella looked out at the moonlit skyline. I was taught not to. Talia didn't respond. Ella continued, her voice soft but firm. You were always the voice, the storm, the one everyone watched. And I was the steady one, the background. I made space for you, again and again. And when I finally asked for room, you laughed. I didn't know I was doing that. That's the problem. Talia's breath caught. I didn't call to fight. Neither did I. I wanted to say I'm sorry. Ella nodded slowly. Thank you. Talia exhaled, almost relieved. I guess I never expected you to become this version of yourself. Neither did I, Ella said honestly. But I built her. You really didn't tell anyone? No one who laughed when I whispered deserved to hear me when I roared. The words stunned even Talia into silence. After a long pause, she asked quietly, So what now? Ella leaned back in her chair. Now I keep going. Without me? Ella didn't answer right away. Talia, I don't hate you. I'm not angry. But I've learned something important. Not everyone deserves a seat at the table I built. I wasn't trying to destroy it, Talia said, hurt. I was just being myself. Ella's voice didn't waver. And I'm finally being myself, fully, without needing to dim so you can shine. Talia's voice was smaller now. Is this goodbye? Ella paused, then said, It's closure. Another silence. Then, quietly, Talia said, You really were always the strong one. I just couldn't see it until the rest of the world did. Ella closed her eyes for a moment. Let the words land. Let them echo. I didn't need you to see it, she whispered. I just needed to stop waiting for your permission. There was a muffled sniff on the other end. I'm proud of you, Talia said. Even if you don't need to hear it. Ella smiled faintly. I don't, but thank you. They sat in silence one last time, two women connected by blood. History and an unspoken knowing that things had shifted for good. Take care of yourself. Talia, Ella said gently. You too. Ella ended the call. She set the phone down and picked up her laptop. The screen glowed back to life. A new message from her publicist. A speaking tour request. A publishing offer from London. An invite to a collaboration. Series for young female founders. Her world was expanding, quietly, powerfully, on her own terms. Ella opened a new document. Typed. You don't need revenge when you've already rewritten the ending. She saved it. Stood. Walked inside. Closed the balcony door behind her, not to shut anyone out, but to keep the warmth in. The heels clicked confidently against the marble floor, not hurried, not unsure. Just grounded. Ella walked down the long corridor toward the main conference hall, past velvet ropes and wide-eyed volunteers who whispered her name like she was someone they'd only seen online before now. She smiled politely, her hands relaxed at her sides. No tremble, no nerves, just clarity. Her blazer fit like armor, tailored, clean, intentional. A deep navy with sharp lapels that caught the soft hallway lighting. Beneath it, a satin blouse in ivory tucked perfectly. Her hair was pulled back, polished but effortless. Her presence? Undeniable. This time, she'd chosen her outfit. Every stitch, every shade. No one else. No more borrowed approval or sabotage silk. Inside the grand ballroom, rows of chairs were filled. The backdrop behind the stage glowed with her name in gold. Keynote speaker, Ella Whitmore, author, investor, founder. The applause began before she stepped onto the stage, but she paused at the threshold, scanning the crowd. And that's when she saw her. Talia. Third row, left aisle, alone, no sparkle, no statement necklace, just a neutral tone dress and a stillness Ella had never associated with her before. Their eyes met, just briefly. Talia didn't smirk, didn't wave, just held her gaze for a moment, then looked down at her folded hands. Ella didn't flinch. She stepped into the light. The applause rose. Then settled. She approached the podium with measured grace, adjusted the mic slightly, and took a breath. Good morning. Her voice carried through the room. Not loud, but clear, certain. When I was younger, I was told I was too quiet, that I needed to speak up more, be louder, bolder, more like someone else. A soft ripple of chuckles moved through the audience. But I've learned something important since then, she continued. Volume isn't the same as power. Some of the most life-changing decisions I've made happened in silence, in stillness, in rejection, in private moments that didn't look like victory. Until later, she paused. I stand here today not because I screamed the loudest, but because I never stopped writing when the world wasn't listening. Another round of applause, more sincere this time. In fact, someone once tried to stop me from making it to a pivotal moment in my career by destroying the outfit I planned to wear to an important meeting. She didn't look at Talia. She didn't need to. It worked. For a moment, I was flustered, humiliated. I almost didn't go. A hush fell across the room, but I went anyway. Not dressed for perfection, but for truth. She moved her hand slowly across the podium, steady. And when I walked into that meeting, I wasn't just a candidate. I was part of the team choosing who got hired. I already had the seat. I just hadn't claimed it yet. Gasps and applause collided, rising around her. In every industry, every family, every friendship circle, there are people who mistake quiet for weakness, who think kindness is permission, who assume that just because you haven't taken the spotlight, you don't deserve one. She let the words settle. I'm here to remind you, you don't have to be loud to be heard. You don't need their respect to earn your worth. And you definitely don't need anyone's validation to begin. Talia's hands remained folded. The crowd was fully locked on Ella now. Some were nodding, some wiping away tears. Ella smiled. This year, we're launching a program that provides mentorship for women who've been overlooked, underestimated, or talked over. It's called the second voice because sometimes it's not the first person who speaks that changes the room. It's the one who waits, watches, and chooses the right moment. The applause now was thunderous. Ella stepped back slightly, letting them clap. She spotted her executive team near the front, standing in support. She had built this, not overnight, but moment by moment, quietly, intentionally, powerfully. And now, she was the voice people leaned in for. After the speech, there were photos, signatures, interviews. A reporter from a national women's magazine waited for her. Her calendar was full. London next, then LA. But eventually, when the line of well-wishers thinned, she stepped into the hallway to breathe. Just a minute of peace. Footsteps approached. She turned, and there was Talia, not done up, not defensive, just there. I didn't know you were speaking, she said quietly. Ella nodded. I figured. Talia's eyes flicked down, then back up. You looked powerful. I felt it. Silence stretched again. I deserve that speech, Talia said finally. Ella tilted her head. I didn't write it for you, but it was still true. Ella nodded once. That's the point. I was awful, Talia admitted. I know that now. I know. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted to say it. Ella looked at her sister. Not as the girl who once mocked her dreams. Not as the woman who once spilled red wine and called it an accident. Just as a person, finally seeing her. Thank you, Ella said. But I don't carry that weight anymore. Talia blinked back emotion. So what now? Ella glanced back at the conference hall. I have to go speak to some publishers. She stepped away. But as she did, she turned back one last time. You destroyed my outfit that day, she said, voice soft but cutting. Thinking it would ruin my shot. Talia's eyes shimmered. Ella smiled. You didn't know. She took another step forward. I was already the one hiring.